Good evening, Gary.
Hello, Aria and Juliet. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. It's I get up early, and we do our walk and everything, and it's the end of the day for me, so it's good. It's good. Lots going on. It's. We all say it's good, and then we realize that it's not so good when you look at the global picture sometimes. But lucky we live Hawaii.
Lucky we live Hawaii.
Got a special guest today, huh?
We do. We do. We're very excited. Let's give our disclaimers first.
Okay. Gary Hooser is who I am. Former state senator representing Kauai and Niihau for 8 years, majority leader for four of those. I was on the Kauai County Council for 8 years and did a lot of stuff the last 20 years. And I'm representing myself. I don't represent any organization. This show, we don't get any money. We do it for volunteer. We volunteer our own time, and we're not part of any 501c3, C4. Go to garyhooser.com if you want to subscribe to my email letter, or garyhooser.blog to read regular postings. That's it for me.
My name is Aria Juliet Castillo. I work for HAPA, Hawaii Alliance for Progressive Action, but I'm here representing myself today. A lot of things have been happening in the news the last 2 weeks since we caught up the last time. The governor is making deals, possibly selling lands, importing natural gas, relocating Mauna Kea, the TMT site of Mauna Kea. There's been a reinvigorated push to inspect who this unknown lawmaker that allegedly took a $35,000 bribe. We'll talk more about that later. Tonight, we have a very special guest. We have another candidate who is running for Congressional District 1. Let us bring her to the stage. Welcome, Representative Della Au Belatti.
Aloha, Aria. Hello, Gary. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome to our show. I was thinking, actually, I went into the Senate in 2002. When did you enter the House?
I entered in 2006, elected 2006, first year 2007.
Okay. So we served together a little bit. You were on the third floor, probably, or fourth floor, and I was right below you.
And you were there when you were Senate Majority Leader. So
Yes, that's right. That's right. It's another thing we have in common. Huh? We were both majority leaders. So welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Della Au Belatti, and I'll just say it. I'm running for Congress. Born and raised Manoa Valley. Lived here all my life. Went to Barrow School. I have two lovely daughters. My husband is almost a 20-year employee at Queens Health Center, and we are, like most families here in Hawaii, just trying to make it life for ourselves here.
So you've been in the legislature for almost 2 decades. What initially brought you to inspire you to run for House, and what keeps you motivated to continue on and try and go for Congress?
So what first inspired me, is that what you're asking, Aria, in 2006? Yeah. So in 2006, I mean, it seems like it's decades ago. I was a mother of a 1-year-old, and it was a time when opportunity was opening up. And actually, my opponent created a situation in which I could run for State House. He was challenging then Senator Akaka for the Senate seat, the U.S. Senate seat. And sitting in the House seat was Representative Brian Schatz, who we all know has gone on since to represent us now in the U.S. Senate. So really, it was an opportunity. I had not anticipated it. But when it came, public service has been deep part of my family as a graduate of Maryknoll High School. The idea of giving back to community has been embedded in me for so long that when the opportunity came, it was something I had to do. And so that's what brought me first to State House. I have always long been committed to making sure that Hawaii is a place where our children can grow up. And one of the things that now brings me to this point of wanting to run for Congress is that, I just see so much of us falling behind. It's just getting so much harder and harder to make it here in Hawaii. I think what I've learned in the State House, some of the issues of affordability that I've worked on in the State House, my commitment to reducing money in politics, bringing integrity to the office of an elected official. These are all things that I'd like to bring to Congress, and I think that's what's motivating me now. So really, it's about making sure that we can build a Hawaii where my daughters, your grandchildren can come back and live, because right now it's just becoming harder and harder for so many of them to come back and raise their own families here.
So thank you for that. I think we're all here to make the world a better place, and thank you for expressing yourself. What do you think you can actually do in the U.S. House to make things better? And it's a complicated. There's 400 and something people there, and it seems like from the outside it looks like a mess. What do you hope to accomplish or hope to do if you're there?
Sure. So on the affordability issues, look, I don't have all the answers. I, in the State House, have developed a reputation, expertise in the healthcare arena, mental health services, access to healthcare, workforce development with healthcare. And so I hope that what we can do is, and we're seeing it right now, we're seeing skyrocketing premiums, in large part due to policies coming out of the federal government where they're not shoring up policies that we know work. Things like the Affordable Care Act, the subsidies for healthcare premiums. We need to keep doing those types of things, fighting for those kinds of policies that work for working families. There's often a lot of talk here about universal health care could be the way that we achieve more affordable health care. And, I'm very intrigued by how we can implement Medicare for all. I've long said that the way to universal health care here in Hawaii is going to be through strengthening Medicare and Medicaid options at the federal government. We have to do that. We can't just do it for the state government. So that's one place where I think I can help make things more affordable. We can help design a universal healthcare system that also pays attention to the unique needs of our healthcare ecosystem that was shaped by the innovative Prepaid Healthcare Act. And I think we can do that through a Medicare for all approach. So I'm very interested in that. I am also very interested in how we can actually make housing more affordable. Now, I don't pretend to be the expert in that. I do know, though, that I can learn fast and that I can convene partners to find innovative solutions. So in looking at what we've done here for housing, I have worked on that front with my colleagues here in the state legislature, implementing and strengthening programs through the low-income housing tax credit. We need to look at that system from the federal perspective and see how we can reform the low-income housing tax credit so it actually really does achieve what we needed to do, which is to build out that supply for those levels of income that need the housing supply. I also think that in housing, and I would look to some of the national advocates. I believe that there's a coalition, a national low-income housing coalition, that is putting forward really good ideas about cash assistance, rental assistance. How do we make actually and build and preserve affordable rentals? Everyone talks about affordable housing, but we have to ask ourselves, especially here in Hawaii, where we see so much of the population as renters. My husband and I were renters. We were renters for 17 years before we could actually afford to cobble together the money to invest in our air-cube space in the sky. So we need to look at innovative other programs that help with rent assistance. And we saw during the COVID pandemic that the federal government, when they invested in those things like emergency rental assistance, that it worked, that it actually brought people out of just struggling to make it, to actually being able to really kind of thrive. We saw that also with the child care tax credit. So I think another thing we can do is we could strengthen the child care tax credit, something that my opponent decided not to do when there was votes on Biden's proposals. And so we really need to invest in policies that actually help working families and lift them out, not just giving people handouts, but giving groups of folks who are struggling, who are working but just don't qualify for all of the other programs that the federal government does. We need to look at those programs that strengthen the middle class, and that's what I want to do when I go to Congress.
Big job.
You mentioned that you do have a competitor. There's been a lot of involved calls and asking someone to run against Representative Ed Case, but it is a three-way race now. Senator Jericho Kolele is also in the race. So how do you plan to connect with voters and distinguish yourself when there's this like blue dog Democrat kind of actually is a Republican, and then another leader from Hawaii?
Well, first of all, let me comment on the three-person race, because I know that a lot of people, especially your audience, is concerned about splitting the vote. And people were being asked to run. And, look, I wasn't asked to run, just like I was not asked to run in 2006. There was an opening then. Now I see a possibility to offer a better choice to the voters of Congressional District 1. And so whether there's 3 people in the race or 2 people in the race, this is a race about who is the best person for Congressional District 1. And so I invite the competition. The way I believe that I think it makes how I plan to connect with community and to distinguish myself is to do the things that I've always done. First of all, I'm deeply, deeply rooted in community. I have lived and worked and raised my family in Congressional District 1. I know best urban Honolulu, but I also have family in Hawaii Kai, family in Waipahu and Pearl City. This district is broad, it's diverse, but it is also a place that I have deep roots in. I also, a part of my strategy has and always been, if you've lived in my district, is that I am about convening and bringing people together, not just knocking in doors or having teletown halls. I'm about really bringing people together over tough, complicated issues and figuring out ways that we can actually build bridges and understand the other side and look for solutions that make sense. That is something that I think we desperately need right now in Washington, D.C., maybe even here. We have to actually truly engage community and have conversations. But like a hallmark from one of my from my first campaign, and I can remember this, and I didn't even quite know what I was doing at the time, Gary, but there are pictures of me with a town hall in the front of Makiki swimming pool, and I have convened, and I was so honored to have him there, Senator Daniel Inouye, and then Brian Schatz there, and we were talking with community. I mean, it was so amazing, right? When you open that door and actually open yourself to real conversations with people who have different perspectives than you, that's where we can start to get real solutions. And so that's been a hallmark of something that I've done over the years as majority leader, as members of different caucuses, as a member of the Women's Legislative Caucus, and now as a co-convener of the Good Government Caucus. Whenever you look at my past history, it's about convening people and bringing people together on even difficult topics, because we have to build coalitions, and I'm a big believer in that. So that's how I believe I will distinguish myself.
What about, so for your campaign, there is a lot of, we're going to talk about all the money that's flowing into politics, corporate donations, PAC money. What is your line, what you're drawing when you're talking about the donations that you need? Because this is going to be, is going to be a costly race with Representative Case having $500,000 in the bank, and Senator Kilgore, I think, has $250,000.
So, Aria, this is going to be a people-powered campaign, and I've never carried big war chests. I mean, I'm not someone who has ever done that. You can even look at my state campaign coffers now. You know, I think that this is going to be about appealing to voters, appealing to small dollar donors, appealing to people who I have built trust up with over the years. I am not going to be taking corporate PAC monies, and I believe I'm the only candidate who is not going to be taking corporate PAC monies. So with that said, you know, I was very happy that I made my announcement late because I was really taking the time to really understand if this was the right thing for me to do. So I only announced on September 25th. In 7 days, within 7 days or 5 days within the filing deadline, I had raised $35,000 from small dollar donors. Some people who had faith in me and did absolutely max me out. But I'm so grateful for that. And that's what I've been doing. I've been trying to reach out to folks and really that's the way I think that this is going to make a difference.
Nice. So, okay, go ahead, Gary.
I was going to say the APAC, APAC money and Gaza and Israel. Can you talk about your position on Israel, Gaza, APAC?
Sure. I am not taking any APAC money. I've not yet been approached, and I don't think I will be approached. I do think that we need to support. We need to stop funding the militarization of that area, and so I think we need to find a solution there. I'm glad that this current administration has had some kind of ceasefire, but it just concerns me that we're not doing enough. That more humanitarian aid now needs to go into that area because of the killings that have occurred. And so we need to make sure now that there is peace in that area and that also the humanitarian needs of the people of Palestine are taken care of now.
In a broader sense of like the growing regional tensions and the impending war that the whole world seems to be having, what do you think the role should Hawaii is in shaping the U.S. engagement with different conflict areas?
Sure. Obviously, Hawaii is a place for bases, but Hawaii can be a bridge, a place where diplomacy is achieved. And I think investments in things like the East West Center, we need to continue that. We need to continue to build out efforts to understand the rest of the world, and we need to do all the things that are important about building soft power and relations. So Hawaii can be that place to bridge.
Speaking specifically on Pohakaloa, the governor is proposing fast tracking, cutting a deal with the U.S. Army and bypassing environmental impact statements and other Hawaii laws. What is your position, or what are your thoughts on that?
So, I want to be clear. There probably we need to have a conversation and follow a process that deals with the extension of the military bases that follows the law. And so I'm actually kind of very confused by what the governor is doing now, because it's apparent in negotiations, they're negotiations with the Secretary of the Army, but they don't even seem to really be grounded in reality. And I base this off of the last letter that I read. I believe it's October 29th. The timelines do not appear to be realistic, right? Convening a joint team, a joint negotiation team 10 days from the writing of that letter. Many of the proposals that are offered in there will have to involve more than just the Secretary of the Army. So I'm just very confused about it, and I think what it's derailing from is from the process that was put before and how we were dealing with the process before the Board of Land and Natural Resources. And so I think we need to go back to that. Look, the Army isn't the only military lease that we're dealing with. The Air Force and the Navy also have leases. And so any kind of negotiated settlement really needs to follow the timelines. I would also say that what confuses me is that some of these timelines extend beyond elections, right? And so if some of the solutions are going to involve legislative solutions, I'll just give you one example. And again, this is in some ways, I would like further information from the governor about how he's going to achieve all of this. But even the transfer of the Federal Bureau of Prisons Honolulu Detention Center is put in his letter as one of those things that could happen. And it actually takes an act of Congress to transfer property from the Bureau of Prisons. So I do not understand this tactic that the governor is following. It seems to be a distraction, and I wish we could go back and return to normal processes, because that's where we will have serious engagement. And then I also think, and this is where it's important, about who's in Congress. You know, the governor should be consulting with the federal congressional delegation. Now, Congress is in a little bit of a situation now, not being open. Our congressional delegation has a lot of things on their hands. So, you know, things are happening, and, you know, all kinds of things are happening. So maybe now is not the time, but I think there needs to be a coming together of the governor and the congressional delegation, because I think the way that it's playing out, it's causing confusion in the community, and it's not going to lead to a good process. And I think as a member of the congressional delegation, if I was part of this, I would be very much asking the question, what are we doing again to convene all of the partners, all of the forces that are involved, all of the community groups who have already stepped forward for the process to offer what they think should be part of the solutions. You know, the governor's trying. He has this engagehawaii.gov website, very sparse at the moment. So maybe he can do something in 10 days, but I think we need to do a reset and really have more coordination between our congressional delegation and our government, and put it on a timeline that complies with the existing laws.
Thank you.
Your colleagues have, for this particular issue, they have brought up the idea of calling in a special session if there is going to be any sort of money exchange for land situation. There's also been renewed calls for a special session to address some of the federal funding gaps that we've had, to address the healthcare gaps that we've had. I know that you've been one of the more active lawmakers that have said that we need to have a special session. Can you talk a little bit about why a special session would be urgent for this case or for the federal funding? And in general, does the legislative timeline work for Hawaii?
Okay, so I hear a couple of questions there, Aria, and I'll try to break it down. I think on the question of a special session on funding, I think we absolutely do need to have a funding a session to understand what's happening. Now, you know, things are happening at such rapid pace at the federal government. You know, we're being told certain things about what this new deal is going to mean. But what concerns me is that we have been floating quite a bit of our own state's cash funds in order to tide us through for numerous things. And these are things that I think it's important for us to do. Things like funding SNAP, funding relief funds. We also, since October 1st, have been funding state employees who are either partially or fully federally funded. Now, we're going to get those monies back, so that's a good thing. But the fact that we're floating all of this kind of money out there, I think it would be responsible for the legislature to come back in and to have a plan and to understand fully what's happening. It would also, I would say, in light of all the other cuts that have been happening, give us an opportunity to also maybe stopgap fund some things that we know are lacking. So just from the Act 310 process, we saw that there was far more needs than the $50 million that we had allocated. And so I think we can come in and boost that amount, get a clearer picture of what is happening, and so that we understand what we're going to need to do and face as we head into January. I will say another thing that has really concerned me, Gary and Aria, is that, you know, because of that historic tax cut that we just passed like 2 sessions ago, right? I think our economic picture, our forecast, our 6-year plan is not as stable as it's been purported to be. So I would like a lot more transparency from our governor about what our state of finances are. And I know some people are going to say, well, the budget process is already, underway and we'll know soon enough. I think, and this goes to your other question, Aria, should we be more full-time? Absolutely. For the last 19 years, I have been both a practicing lawmaker a practicing attorney and a legislator. And, that's our obligation. We are a part-time legislature, but we always claim that we're working full-time. I think in this situation, we do work full-time. We're always monitoring. And if we know that there's a problem, we need to call ourselves back into session. We do not have to wait for the governor to call us back into session. And I will say one last thing. There's been a lot of talk about, more recent talk, I think, from my colleague, Representative Hassi, that if there is truly any kind of land exchange on the deal, for sure, the legislature should be called back into session. So that's one thing. There's adding more funding for agencies and nonprofits that are hurting that I think we should do. There's another area that I'm specifically very interested in for a special session, and that's to deal with no secret police and the increase in activity that we are seeing around, and I'm just going to say it's ICE detentions, right? And it's the federal government being supercharged on bringing in those who they consider illegal immigrants who are not being afforded their due process rights. I think we failed in the last legislative session by not passing some bills that would, in some ways, just ensure that all of our law enforcement understands what is our basic constitutional protections here in this state under our state constitution and our United States Constitution. I do not want to wait until we see more activity like we're seeing on the continent. We anecdotally already know in the stories that we have seen coming out that people's rights are being violated. It disturbs me that there is a system here and we can enact some laws really quickly right now. We can just look to California at their No Secret Police Act to ensure that there's no masking of police, that there's identification. We could do that in a special session now. I have a bill ready that I'm willing to share with my colleagues. That's something we can easily do. And Gary, you know how this works, right? Special session, there's gonna be excuses put out. Oh, we can't do this. It's gonna cost so much money. But honestly, we don't hire new staff for a special session. We have great staff. In the 19 years that I've been a state legislator, we've done special sessions.
Right,
so the budget is not a concern. We can do this. We just need to have political will to do this.
Okay, so let's pivot to that. So there's still an opportunity in November. A special session could be announced tomorrow to start the following week or something. So one thing that people always ask me, people watching this are going to be asked, what can I do? So what would you advise people to do, whether they live wherever they live, whatever district they're in right now, if they agree with us, if they agree that we need a special session, there's lots of valuable stuff that needs to be done. What can they do at this very moment in time?
Well, Gary, I've been watching what you've been sending out, and I really do appreciate it because you also are about community engagement and getting people involved. And people can write to their House representatives and their senators and ask for a special session calling for these things: no secret police, more funding for nonprofits. Let's quickly, if we can, maybe adjust some of the tax policies so that we can shore up our system. We know where those flaws are, where we can quickly rein some things in to make us to strengthen our financial standings. There are things we can do, and certainly if the governor does something on the military leases, we should, like, if there is any kind of land transaction, that's another reason to come in and reiterate that's the process we need to follow.
Great. Yeah, I agree that it's impossible to move the governor's conversation forward without changing the law, basically, which requires a special session. And we've talked about, and you've articulated very well, a lot of the needs, the urgent needs, the ICE, the budget. You've also been immersed and very active last year, especially, or this year, I guess it is, still, on so-called good government issues, campaign finance reform, that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that's still on your agenda, and that, I mean, I'll cut to the chase here. People are concerned about incumbents running for office, that they'll be spending their time running for office and not spending their time serving in their job, or serve it in a way that is more passive, for the want of a better way, so they don't rock the boat, so they don't want to trample their election. So what are your goals besides the Trump goals and the budget and the military? Your regular goals. What do you hope to accomplish, or what do you believe can be accomplished in the 2026 regular session?
Oh, Gary, you're asking me about one of my favorite topics. So it sometimes gets lost that my first foray into politics was actually as a campaign spending commissioner at a time when pay to play was running rampant. And so when you asked me, Aria, to your earlier question of why did I get involved? Well, I got involved because of in part my work at the Campaign Spending Commission. I was actually required to stay neutral, but seeing the good work that people do in government, but then understanding the connection between money and politics has always been something that I've been concerned about and that I've worked towards. I've always been a supporter of more robust, publicly financed elections, what some people call clean elections. And that goes to your point, Gary, about how people spend so much of their time raising monies rather than and then really paying attention to those people who can fund those elections rather than just doing the work, right? And understanding what the complex issues are. So moving into the new session, and even as as I move to Congress, right, we can think about reforms for good government. We can continue to push for improved publicly financed elections, even the partial public elections. Those are things that we can do. But good government is more than just campaign finance reform. It's about making sure that our elections system is strong. So I have always long been an advocate for voting reforms, supporting mail-in voting. It's disturbing to me to see that there's recommendations to pull back on our mail-in voting, which we know is a secure system. It is a secure system, and that it is a system that we can be proud of, and it is a system that provides access. So certainly heading into the 2026 elections, I will continue to support mail-in voting. I know that I've been getting a lot of emails about that. So those are some of the things that we can do and continue to do in good government, in the good government work. I do want to pivot, Gary. I've been very excited in this last evolution of my political career. Even as I go out, I have had this opportunity to work with some really young legislators like Kanani Souza, Amy Caruso. They're younger in years of experience, and they helped us to reform the Good Government Caucus. And so I'm really looking forward to the work that we're going to do with the Good Government Caucus to push transparency and accountability, and how we can ensure that the community is more engaged in the process. That's something some people have asked, well, the Good Government Caucus hasn't done anything. Look, caucuses do more than just pass legislation, and I want to give everybody like a heads up. We were just in existence for 1 year, but we introduced bills this year that I'm going to continue to push for, especially the campaign finance reform bills, because I think they have direct bearing on some of the developments that we're seeing now in the legislature that are going unaddressed, and that people in the public are calling for us to address. And so I'm looking forward to that in 2026.
I would think the more successful you are in the 2026 legislative session, more successful in leading and passing good government and strong legislation, the more that will carry forward to help you in your future path to do bigger and better things as well. Well, look what she did at that state house. Let's see what she can do in Washington, D.C. So before I forget, if someone wants to find out more about you or wants to like look you up and in your resume, what's the best way to do that? You have a web address or something you want to shout out?
DellaAuBelatti.com is my campaign website. We're still building it out, but that's certainly some place where you can go and find me. And please connect with me. I'm looking forward to meeting with folks on the campaign trail, talking with folks, listening to folks, and listening to what their concerns are and what their solutions may be as well.
And tell me again, where approximately it's from Hawaiʻi.
So it's from Hawaiʻi, and then at central Oahu, it's some precincts of Wahiawa, and then down around by Ewa Makakilo, that area. So it's far-ranging, including Pearl City, Waipahu, Ewa, that entire area.
Does it go to Kapolei or no?
I think it touches parts of Kapolei, yes.
Okay. So the neighbor islands, and of course, are the CD2. Representative Takuda represents a rural Honolulu and Oahu, and then the neighbor islands.
Yes. So really, CD1 is urban Honolulu from Hawaiʻi to parts of Oahu.
There's an issue it's kind of maybe out of the blue because it's been resting for a little bit, but it's important to me, and Aria and I both have worked many hours on it, and it's the issue of corporate industrial agriculture. The Monsantos of the world, the corporate agriculture versus small food farms. I spend a lot of time thinking and working and talking to people about food self-sufficiency as well as energy self-sufficiency. Could you talk on those two topics for a moment?
Sure. I really I want to lean on my colleague Representative Lisa, because she's been really educating me on the food system security. I'm very concerned about kind of the concentration of even agricultural lands that we're beginning to see with private equity funds, and so that's something that I'm concerned about. I do think that we need to look more deeply at that and understand, how land is also becoming concentrated in those areas. I think from a federal perspective, the federal government plays an important role in funding things like food security, energy security, and what we've seen this current administration do to divest so many of the infrastructure projects that were going to build out our communities so that they're more energy self-sufficient. I think that those are the kinds of things that I'm eager to make sure we get back to doing, because as we strengthen our infrastructure, we build our states' economies. Big infrastructure projects are not things that can just be done and left to individual corporations. We know they won't do it. We just know that they won't do it. It takes public investment in those kinds of public goods, and that's what I'm interested in doing.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about your campaign strategy? Are you going to be door knocking throughout the district? It is quite large.
Yes, I will be walking through communities. The time right now is being spent to really organize, reach out, identify community needs. But yes, I anticipate that we will be doing lots of community meet and greets, coffee hours, knocking on doors. I will say that if anyone would love to reach out to me, again, go to DellaAuBelatti.com. We have a little volunteer section if you'd like to volunteer. That's where if you give us your information, I will come out. I'm happy to talk to any groups, large or small. I'm available to listen and really listen, engage with folks. It is a big district, but we also have until August 8th. So the value in announcing, even though I didn't announce as early as some of my opponents, there's time. And I am certainly committed to making sure that we get out into community. I have a great team that's been built up. They're getting excited. We're going to be marching tomorrow I hope, We're still kind of making sure we can do it. The Wahiawa Veterans Day Parade. We'll have a presence there at some point. We'll if not marching as our group, we'll be with the Democratic Party. So my goal is to get out to every community. And one thing, Gary, you'll appreciate this. You know, as a sitting legislature, there's a lot of sensitivity when lawmakers go into other people's districts, right? You're not supposed to show up without asking permission. And of course, you know, I still want to ask permission of everybody. But what I love about this this race, what I love about this challenge is that it's getting me the opportunity to meet so many people across Honolulu. I can't tell you how many times I've already been to the ProCom Center. I've been to lots of events, so I'm also happy if anyone wants to invite me. I can't promise that I'll be at every event, but I would love to meet folks. I'm doing things like attending various public events. So please, if anyone sees me out there, don't be afraid. Approach me. Say, hey, I saw you. I'd like to know your position on X, Y, and Z. I hope I'm very approachable. So I'm happy to talk with anyone at any time, Aria.
Thank you. And let's imagine that you are successful in getting elected to office. You know, DC is such a far flight away. How are you going to balance coming home and spending time with your family and also being available to your constituents?
I love that question because part of the reason why it did take me some time to make a decision was really I had to consult with my family. As Gary knows, they're probably some of your most important constituents. But I will say that they were from the very beginning super supportive. My daughters are both, wonderful independent women. I'm raising them to be, I hope, independent, self-sufficient women. My oldest daughter is now a junior at UH Manoa. My youngest daughter is a sophomore at Roosevelt High School, and so they're a little bit older, and so they're certainly supportive of me going to Washington, D.C. I have juggled for the last 20 years, both being a mom, a lawyer, and a state representative. And so with their support, I'm ready to do it.
I want to ask, I got to ask too, is there any competition from the right, from the Republican Party or other third parties?
You know, I haven't been focused on that, but I will not take anything for granted. And I assume, there's going to be a challenger. And so whether it's August 8th or November 4th or, election day in November, we're going to take every election seriously.
And then your seat opens up no matter what.
Yes.
So there'll be other candidates are already declaring to run in your seat, correct?
Yeah, and what's going to happen is, so just to reassure my voters or my constituents in District 26, I do serve until November 2026. There is no resign to run law in this case. I can continue to serve as state representative, and I will do so to the best of my ability. I've juggled different jobs and different tasks for so many years. I know I can do it now with the help of my family and my great staff, both my campaign staff to keep me going on the campaign side and my legislative staff to keep me running. And so I will continue to serve and work hard for the people of this district.
Another question, kind of inside baseball question. And other than the Hawaii delegation, do you have relationships with other House members of the House of Representatives working in Washington, D.C. that you envision or hope to work with?
I only know them from what I see on TV.
Okay.
Certainly, I'm trying to understand that, but I think the focus now needs to be on the people of Hawaii and what they need. So, I have been asked questions like that, like, who are you going to pick for a speaker? And I'm like, that's such a premature question to be asking at this point. I will say though, and I'll say this, which is kind of exciting, and I'm just tickled pink to see what's happening at the national level. As a state legislator, Gary, you know this, we often travel And we meet colleagues from across the nation. And I see in Tennessee, the Democrat running in the special election there, Afton Ben, is someone who I met just recently at a conference, at a innovation conference. And to see her taking the stage and fighting for her constituents, it makes me have hope, because she's in a deeply red state, as we all know, right? And she's fighting hard for the working class families of her state. I think whatever happens in 2026, my hope is that we do see a changing of the guard. I think it's needed. It's much needed. And that with that energy and that recommitment that I see to actually doing the people's work and actually speaking up for working families, if our party can do that, and by our party, I mean the Democratic Party, if we can elect Democrats who truly stand up for working families, we are going to be better off as a state. And so I purport that I am that candidate for CD1, just like my friend Afton is that candidate in deep red Tennessee. I'm going to fight for every vote here. I'm going to want to talk to every voter in CD1, and even voters who may not agree with me on everything, because we're not going to agree on everything. But the point is that we need to listen to each other and then find the common ground, and then send someone to Washington, D.C. who can both work to find common ground, but stand up when it's important to stand up. And that's how, back to some of the other questions you asked, Aria, about how am I different from my opponents? You can trust that I will stand up when it's necessary.
That sounds good to me. I'm an unabashed Bernie Sanders Democrat. And when you talk about fighting for working people, it made me think about Bernie Sanders. But I also think about his positions on the ultra rich, the oligarchs, and the need to make them pay their fair share, and the need for universal health care. I believe you addressed that. How far to talk about that, your political philosophy? We got a few more minutes here, so where do you talk some more about that? You got me excited talking about working people, talking about healthcare. Do you see yourself aligning with the Bernie Sanders and AOCs of the world?
I like a lot of their tax policies. I'll say that. Or let me say, I would like to know more about their tax policies, but what I do know, I think it's important. I think having the ultra rich and not having wealth concentrated in that top upper end, it's insane. Not allowing oligarchs to make the decisions about what we see on in our newspapers, on TV, on our late night show TV programs, right? Like that's not America. That's not the America that I ever envisioned living in. And I will say that when I talk to people like youth, like my daughter, Emma, who is I can't believe it, but she's kind of interested in sociology and law. When I talk to her, and she's just like, the system is all rigged against us. A lot of people feel that way. A lot of people in this young generation feel that way, and I don't blame them when you see the imbalance in the concentration of wealth. So I don't know what all the tax policies are, Gary, but I just know that it's out of balance. When you see tax cuts for the rich being extended permanently, and then you see premium subsidies for healthcare that is going to people who are self-employed and largely independent contractors. And now those individuals, and let me tell you, there are 17,000 of those individuals in the state of Hawaii right now. I've talked to some of them. They are people who own their own businesses, but now they're making the decision that they may go without healthcare. So when those small business owners, these are not the uber rich, these are the middle-class, hardworking families of our communities. When they're not getting the subsidies, but Elon Musk and Zuckerberg are getting far greater tax relief than those people, something is out of balance, and we need to fix that. And so, yes, I am willing to tackle those kinds of inequalities.
is there something on the local level that we can do to tax someone like a Zuckerberg or a Larry Ellison?
Even just fixing and pausing the tax relief that we've given away, a lot of tax breaks moving into 2030. Even if we just pause some of those things, and I know that there are ideas already about that floating, and we could come up with that. We could come up with that legislative fix now and rally around that. Yes, there are funding mechanism, taxing policies that we can implement now or in 2026, that if we fail to do so, it will kind of really demonstrate what type of Democrats we are here in Hawaii. And I want to be for the Democrats who are for working families. Because again, that imbalance that we're seeing at the federal government is in some ways replicated in the policies at our state government level. So I'll be fighting for both of those things. I'll be fighting for both of those things, changes here at the state and changes in the federal government.
Thank you.
Great. Coming back, bouncing back and forth between the state and the federal government here. One issue that is troubling and at the top of the list here is corruption. And we had former colleagues of yours and mine, served time in prison for taking bribes. And recently in the news, there's been this discussion about $35,000 contribution, bribe, campaign contribution. No, we're not sure what it is, but the FBI apparently tape recorded an influential legislator getting that. And there's a movement now to petition the House and the Senate to do something, to get to the bottom of it, and not just wait around when this person may be serving in public office now or not, maybe influenced. Do you have any words on that?
I have a lot of words on that, Gary. So many, because there have been rapid developments over the last 48 hours. What I will say is, and this is a little bit of a scoop, Gary, for you, is that I think we need a legislative-led, public, open, and transparent investigation now. And it needs to have, if not complete findings, I actually believe it can come out with some preliminary findings, because we need to understand what has happened. And we can, I believe, pass legislation to make sure it doesn't happen again. You know, the recent developments have been that this petition, which I applaud Mr. Ali Silver for doing, is called for us to have an investigation. I will say that I have been pursuing an investigation and asking and getting the appropriate state authorities to do that since almost the end of May, the last legislative session, when we failed to pass real campaign finance reform that I was hoping would get passed around contractors. Because I think my belief is, as I look at this, is that the actions may not have been criminally and are not going to be criminally prosecutable under federal laws, but certainly there are state laws. And in May, you know, what I asked, you know, and Gary, you'll understand this, right? Because this is the insider-outsider game, right? I truly want an independent investigation to detail to us as legislators the things that happened around this $35,000. It's no longer just about the person who accepted it. It's about the person who gave the money, and then tracking and following where that $35,000 went. And so what we need to do, and if it's all lawful, and Gary, you and I know this, it probably could have been lawful. It could have been potentially lawful monies, but the taint around it, the fact that it is representative of kind of bad government practices, is something that we understand. And if we can reform it now, we owe the people of our communities to understand what happened and then pass laws to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And I feel strongly about this, Gary, because I believe last Friday there was a little bit of a kerfuffle. You know, the Speaker of the House sent out a announcement that we weren't going to respond to the petition, and I was quite shocked by that, because, you know, I think that's all that's left at this point. And then what I was doing in July, after asking the Speaker of the House if anything was going to be done and being told that nothing, that there wasn't going to be any action really taken, I took the steps to inquire and make sure that we could get a state investigation going. And what I learned in numbers of letters to the attorney, with the U.S. attorney, and then with state AG, the ethics commissioner, executive director, and the spending commissioner, executive director, it doesn't seem like there was anything that's going to be happening. And then all of a sudden, a public petition is being called for, which is within our authority. What that petition is calling for was within our authority to do. We can convene ourselves as an investigative committee. We can afford all the due process that's afforded to whoever this person is, but we can get information out there now to understand what happened so that we can pass legislation so it does not happen again. And we need to shut down whatever process that was that played out with that $35,000.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, it seems like if it wasn't illegal, it had to be unethical or inappropriate in some manner. But thank you very much for sharing that. We'll learn more about it, I'm sure, in the coming days or hours. Oh man.
Well, our time is almost up, Rep. Belatti, but we just wanted to give you some time to share some final parting words with everybody.
First, just thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I think this is the first podcast that I've done for my campaign. I certainly hope to do more. I am just grateful for this opportunity to be able to run for this seat, to offer the people of CD1 a choice, to offer folks a leader in Washington, D.C. who will fight for them, who will fight for working families. I'm going to be I commit to being a leader who brings both courage and common sense and a sensibility of collaboration, but then standing up and protecting and fighting for what's going to be best for the people of Hawaii. I'm ready for this campaign. I'm ready to work for the people of Hawaii. And I ask that people keep their hearts and minds open to me. And I would love to talk with them and be their next congressional representative in Congress in 2026. So thank you for this opportunity to tell my story.
Thank you. And again, if they want to find out more, my name is Della Au Belatti. And where do they go?
Della Belatti, DellaBeellatti.com.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a really good show. And I've learned a lot and feels good. Thank you.
We'll definitely be inviting you back to get an update on your campaign to see how everything's going and check in how the legislative session goes next year.
Thank you, Aria. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, and I imagine there's going to be some debates down the road that someone will be hosting.
I hope there will be some debates.
Yeah,
I'm ready for that.
Yeah, if no one else hosts them, and maybe Aria, Juliet, and I will have to think about that. Okay, ahui ho.
Okay, bye.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah, you can tell, you can just feel her enthusiasm and excitement for running and her care and love for the people of Hawaii. So it is kind of infectious, you know. When people start talking about their campaign, I'm like, yeah, I get excited and to hear about it. And, you know, competition is healthy. I think we do have some time to see who the front runner is going to come out, you know, and give people a choice and really have those conversations about who deserves to be representing us, who's the best choice. So
That's
it's
right.
exciting.
Yeah, I think it is exciting and it's good and competition's good, and Yeah, it was good. I liked the working families, fighting for working families. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it unfolds. Everybody has different strengths and weaknesses they bring to the table. The incumbent, Congressman Case, has tremendous amount of experience, right? He's got his relationships, he's got his networks, he's got all the stuff he's worked on all these years. He doesn't have to hit the ground running. He's already there. The Senator Jarrett has his strengths, serving in the Senate as opposed to the House, his work and connections in the Native Hawaiian community. And Representative Belatti, of course, has years of experience in the House and this pretty good energy pumping out in terms of what she can do, what she wants to do, and what she hopes to do. And it is infectious. It's good.
She touched a little briefly about the election wins that the Democrats saw on last Tuesday. Mayor Mamdani in New York City. We have the New Jersey governor, the Virginia governor. And it is exciting to see the Democrats kind of have a few wins. And I really hope that, their message of working families was resonating among all of the broad different coalitions. And I hope that we see more of that in Hawaii, in our Hawaii Democrats, because I still think there's a little bit of a disconnect in Hawaii Democrats versus the national populations.
I agree. The national, Mamdani, it's crazy when so many leaders are afraid of healthcare for all, or afraid of phrases like fighting for working people, or afraid of taxing the rich. And it's like, this is not radical stuff at all. How many other countries, I can't, more than on both hands, already have universal healthcare, already have free childcare for young children and free education. And tax the rich far more than the United States. And it's not radical, crazy, left-wing socialism, communism stuff. It is just wild that so many of our leaders in Washington, D.C., national and local, to some extent, are afraid of being labeled too far left. It kills me when they talk about, this recent vote that the 8 Democrats that crossed over, described as centrists. Hey, I'm a centrist. These are centrist ideas. Living wage is a centrist idea. Medicare for, it's just crazy. And I want to give a shout out. It's really the people of New York City that made this happen. Yeah. We had an excellent candidate who went out and galvanized people, but it was the people that showed up. And Hawaii, if we can do the same, and we have good people running too. Not everybody is overflowing in charisma. You don't have to be overflowing in charisma to be a good candidate or a good legislator. To get elected, sometimes you do, but we need to rally the people of Hawaii in this upcoming 2026 election and get them to turn out and show up. The last primary, 30% of registered voters, 31% showed up. And that's 70% of the people staying home. And if they would show up, we could have so much more. New Mexico just passed early child care for all. Free child care. New Mexico. It's like crazy stuff.
In New York City, people are saying that the billionaires are going to exit New York. I highly doubt that. And all the other states surrounding them, like Connecticut, have similar tax policies. So I don't really think they're going anywhere. And Hawaii should definitely not act in fear that the billionaires are going to pack up and leave, because we're not taxing them properly anyway. So I really don't see what the benefit is of having him here at their third vacation home, as if we're not going to be
Exactly. Another billionaire in line behind them.
Mhm.
And the less the people that are here, the more attractive the place becomes. So Hawaii does not have to fear the ultra wealthy are going to somehow stop coming here. I mean, just walk around outside and look, folks. You know, you can't get this anywhere else. Or very few other places. Uh, yeah, yeah, it's good. Listen, I want to give a shout out, if I can, to Uncle Ray Catania,
Yes.
my brother. And Ray Catania, those of you that know him know he's talk about working class hero. This guy is a working class hero from a long time ago. He stood on the line, labor union lines, Kanaka holding on to their land lines. He's marched. He's been arrested. This guy is smart. He's articulate, and he needs our help. He was airlifted from Kauai to Straub about 2 weeks ago. And I'm not going to get into his medical issues, but they're really serious. It was touch and go. We almost lost Uncle Ray, and now he's in a rehabilitation recovery facility in Kapolei, and he needs our help. He's out of work now for God knows how long. He's got medical bills, his family. So there's a GoFundMe uh, account that's on the screen now. And if those of you watching, please write it down, do a screenshot, and give Uncle Ray whatever you can, whether it's $25 or $250 or $2,000. Please give him something. And you can Google GoFundMe Ray Catania, C-A-T Catania, A-N-I-A. If you go to my blog, garyhooser.blog, the second blog post, you scroll down, is a story which I include and ask for Uncle Ray Catania. Please, let's help him. Yeah, he's helped so many other people.
I met him during Bill 2491, and he was there at the hearings, just supporting people, rallying them, getting them fired up. He'd stand by the post office with a sign that said, "Pass the bill." My mom would see him and she was like, "My daughter's working on that." And, he was so proud of all of us all the time, constantly so encouraging of younger people getting involved. And he always shows up. And this is our time to show up for him, too.
That's right. I remember, never forget, I was at the Democratic Convention, the Hawaii Convention, in some hotel ballroom, and he was the speaker. And there must have been several hundred people, I don't know, there's 300 people in the room, standing up and cheering, and Uncle Ray's at the podium just pounding on democratic values, working people, healthcare for all. The guy's a treasure, and we need to step up and help him. So again, it's on the screen, or you can Google GoFundMe Ray Catania, or go to garyhooser.blog, and it's the second blog post down on my list. So thank you. Also on that same blog post, I talk about the petition that I've signed, and I think you've signed, and we're circulating to support the investigation of the $35,000 bribe contribution, whatever that we were talking about earlier. You know more about that than I do, probably.
Yeah, so this is I think earlier this year, Civil Beat came out with an expose. They said that, the FBI had identified another individual implicated in the bribery scandal that involved Kalani English and Ty Cullen. And allegedly there was a meeting with Ty Cullen, another business person, and an unknown lawmaker who allegedly accepted a $35,000 bribe. And the speculation is that this bribe is possibly a campaign donation, possibly spread amongst various people, possibly a nonprofit donation. We don't know what exactly it could be an envelope of cash with $35,000 in it. We don't know. It was included in the FBI documents and it was redacted, but redacted improperly. So Civil Beat was sitting on this for I think over a year or two when they initially got the reports, but they were like, "Hey, it's been over a year now. we know the FBI has this unknown person. They could still be serving in legislature today, and we don't know. And there was a little bit of, talk around it back in, I think, March or May when Civil Week came out with it, but nothing happened. Nothing came out. The legislature failed to pass any meaningful reform on campaign finance laws when it comes to contractors and contractor loophole bans. So now there's a renewed interest in who this person is, who likely could still be serving or has been serving, voting on good government reform bills, possibly hindering them or somewhat affecting these specific laws. And like Representative Belatti said, technically the actions could not be illegal, but I still think it warrants an investigation and a report, because this is not how we want the legislature to operate. And unfortunately, this is the public's perception, is that this is how they all operate. And that's really unfair for most of lawmakers who are not doing backroom deals for campaign promises, etc. Ali Silvert was on HPR a couple days ago and talked about this, and he kind of explained why the federal case was probably likely not going to move forward. And that's because our Supreme Court narrowed the definition of bribery so narrow that it's really hard to implicate someone in that. And that it's not a bribe if the money comes after the fact. So if it was a thank you, the money has to come before the action. So I think Hawaii state bribery laws are a little bit more broad, but then also just having it come out and at the state legislature in an investigation. Rep. Belatti did say initially, when the news started coming out about this petition, Speaker Nakamura had said that they're not going to be accepting the petition and will not be taking any action, using the excuse that they didn't want to impede a federal case. She's since backtracked on that, and she sent 2 letters to the Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney General asking what the status is and if they can look into it. No word from the Senate side. I don't think there have been any comments, any inquiries sent from the Senate side of things, which is interesting.
I think we should give Speaker Nakamura a little shout out, a little credit for realizing that she needed to do more. A lot of legislators, a lot of people will just get stuck in their ways and they'll say, no, I'm not going to do it. But apparently after she announced she wasn't going to do anything, she realized, well, she has a responsibility to do something, and did take some meaningful steps. So thank you, Speaker Nakamura. And I appreciate what you said, Aria, about how this makes everybody look bad, and everybody's not bad. I've served 16 years in elective office, and the vast majority of people serving are not crooks. They may share a different ideology than me, or be, this or that, where I don't agree with their policies or whatever, but most of them are not crooks. And this makes everybody look bad. The 30% turnout, because a big degree, 30% voting turnout, because people don't trust the system. They don't trust their leaders, so why show up and vote when they're all a bunch of crooks? And that's not the case. The few bad apples hurt everybody. And I cannot imagine a positive, wholesome, ethical, moral reason to accept $35,000 in a meeting that was tape recorded by the FBI, and then not coming forward and explaining it once it hits the news. Something's not right there, and hopefully that information comes out soon. Before, not to end on a negative note, I want to pivot if I could. Could I talk about something else?
Yes, please.
I want to give a big shout out to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Kai Kahele, who's the chair, is that the proper title? There's another title.
Chair.
Head trustee.
Yeah.
And Trustee Brickwood Galataria, the two that I know about, are active in this. And I posted this on GaryHooser.blog. This is the first item on my blog. I just posted it a couple hours ago. They are proposing, the Office of Hawaiian Affairs Committee, chaired by Brickwood, trustee, is proposing to ask the legislature to do a constitutional amendment banning live fire on public lands, trust lands. And how cool is that? Okay, that's leadership right there. Okay, let's just ban bombing trust lands, public trust lands. They can't do it.
Yeah.
They might still try to force it, but put it in the Constitution. That would go before the ballot. Also on the same agenda, this is Wednesday's agenda. On the same agenda is a proposal to ban aquarium fishing. Okay, which is a hot topic of people taking live fish off the reefs. We're trying to preserve the reefs, and there's people out there harvesting fish and selling them. And then thirdly, there's I'll call it rent control. There's an issue impacting the increase of rents on their agenda. That's on Wednesday's agenda. And there's more also. Those are the three hot topics on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, there's a meeting of the trustees to finalize it all. So I put this on my blog, garyhooser.blog, and it's got the links to the OHA agendas, and people can go there and testify. I really encourage people to show up and testify. But OHA, they could just sit back and do nothing. But these are some tangible leadership type of initiatives, and so hats off to them.
That's awesome.
So what else we got?
And who's our guest next week?
Oh, that's right. Our guest next week is Kai Kahele, former congressman, Kai Kahele, and who's in charge of the I should look it up while we're talking, the chair of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. I think is his title. And he'll be on. I hope we're going to be talking about all the things we just talked about, as well as probably more on Wakaloa and other issues that affect us all, whether we're native Kanaka or whether we're settlers or whether born here or whatever. And so that should be an interesting conversation. And wow. I was kind of worn out before we started. Now I'm pumped up.
Pumped up and ready to go.
Yeah. And I encourage people, again, get involved. Make those telephone calls. Stop and smell the roses. Be healthy. Drink water. Hydrate.
I've been heeding your advice. I have been taking my dog on longer walks these days, and it is really nice to clear your head and get your thoughts moving.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Yeah, we walk every day, Claudette and I, and I wrote something. I like to write, and I write weekly. I wrote something about thoughts I'd had during a walk and music I'd listened to. And I posted it on Facebook, posted it on my blog, and it blew up online in terms of the comments. Hundreds of people have mentioned it and said that it impacted them. And I didn't realize how hungry people are for basically human contact. We all get working so hard. We're working and we're worried about food. We're working on paying the rent, paying our mortgage, children, and Trump. And we get wrapped up in this, and we forget to stop and look around and see how fortunate we are, especially here in Hawaii. The rainbows and the just where we live is great, and the potential we all have. And I mentioned to you earlier, so this is written from a boomer. I'm a boomer generation, and all my boomer friends can relate to it, but all my younger charges, my younger Calabash children and younger friends like yourself and my son and daughter and all the Kuleana Academy folks, I want them to read that and listen to the words Forever Young that Bob Dylan writes. And they're for everybody, whether you're 70, 80, 90 years old, or whether you're 15 or 18 or 50. It just talks about the human spirit. And I just want to encourage everybody to read those lyrics, Forever Young. Rod Stewart does a great job too with the song, but the lyrics are what matters. So that's and that touched people for some reason. People are ready for that. So I want to share it with anyone who watches this. It's also on my blog. It's also on Facebook. So that's all I got for today.
Sounds good. Okay, I guess we'll see everyone next week, Monday, November 17th, 5 o'clock with Chair Kai Kahele.
Great. Thank you, Aria Juliet.